Welcome to Travel Devil. I'm your host Clara Francken, and in a world full of mass tourism, we're here to talk about unconventional travel. Let's get into it.
Is there anything more beautiful than arriving to your final destination by land instead of just flying there? That's what we're going to talk about today because I'm going to share how I traveled between Greece and Germany. I think the most important thing for me to share with you is that this is a trip worth talking about, and meaning that it is almost Christmas and family time is coming up. How beautiful is it to be able to share stories about sustainable travel that you did with your family and maybe to inspire others? So, hopefully, you can get cozy just like me. I'm wearing a little, I don't know how this is called, but I'm wearing something you wear before you go to sleep or when you get out of the shower. And I have a glass of pumpkin spice vegan milk. And let's get cozy. I'm going to talk to you about how I did it, how I traveled between Greece and Germany, what I learned from this journey, comparing it to flights as well, because yes, I flew there. Okay, this was a family holiday. I flew one way and I went the other way. I went back by train. And I think it's worth noting that every little action matters. And I was criticizing myself a little bit for taking the plane, but no, no, no. We're not here to criticize. We're here to talk about how it can be fun and which roads you can choose, right? So let's get into this. First of all, I'm going to tell you which road I took because I think this is the most important part just for you to understand, there's many different ways of getting back to Germany overland, right? We have Greece and then we have Germany. There's many countries in between. One way to go, which is totally overland, would be through the Balkan countries. And I was considering this road, but today we're not going to talk about that road. Why not? Because yeah, the Balkan is probably another story. The train infrastructure is bad, and the options would be for me to mainly travel by bus. And I'm not such of a big bus fan, especially when it comes to night buses, long bus trips. And the other factor is that I love to travel where I've got friends, right? And I don't have friends in the Balkan yet. Hit me up. But yeah, no, so I don't know anybody in the Balkans and I want to stay like low budget at the same time as I'm traveling and I'm spending money on tickets. I want to not spend too much money on places where I'm staying. Right, so I'm also looking for places where I've got couches, friends who can host me. Okay, so now let's talk about which route I did take. I traveled from Greece through Italy to Germany and I crossed very, very briefly Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and Austria. You don't need to be through crossing these countries, but I wanted to cross these countries just because, I mean, why not? Right? So I'm going to get into it during this episode, but first, let's begin at the beginning, right? So the beginning part was in Greece because I flew there and then I took the train back. But obviously, on a Greek island, there is no train getting me to mainland. So, first things first, we're taking the ferry. I took a ferry and it was super cheap. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna name numbers in this episode as well, just so you understand how expensive or not expensive this trip actually was. And at the end, I will just count everything together so you know and you can compare it to plane tickets, right? But we're going to get there, alrighty? So, the first ferry I took was called Kirkira Lines, and there are different ferries that are crossing from the island to the Greek mainland. I just chose that one. From what I've heard, the most sustainable option would be the slowest ferry because it doesn't force as much of the engine. But I think taking the ferry and doing this whole trip overland is definitely better and more sustainable than taking the plane. So you don't have to worry about that too much, I think. But yeah, I did take it into consideration. Um, but a bit too late because I took the super fast ferry because I don't know. I didn't think about that. And then somebody told me, and then I was like, yeah, that makes sense, right? So we're learning, we're learning. This ferry that I took was 6 euros 40, which is super cheap, was a very quick ride. And yeah, I just sat on the deck, has a beautiful view. It was pretty nice. I mean, I arrived in Igoumenista, which is a big port, which then allowed me to travel back to Italy. There's sometimes also a ferry directly from the Corfu island where I was on to Italy, but not the days that I wanted. So yeah, I had to go to mainland first. This ferry ride, I mean, it was nice. I explored the ship and I didn't even have so much time because I mean, in 2 hours ish, something like that, not even, I was there. So that was so quick. I arrived there and then I had to spend my evening waiting for the night ferry. And that was a fun part because I took the night ferry, which was called the Superfast 2, between Igoumenista, Greece, and Bari, Italy. So this is the second time that I'm taking this overnight ferry. The first time I took it from Patras, and actually Yemenista makes a bit more sense from where I was. So just because the ship is pretty slow, if I would have traveled to Patras first, I mean, it does make sense geographically if you would look at a map. But that's a little side note. This ferry costed me 76 euros and I was allowed to sleep anywhere I wanted. I didn't have an, a place to sleep, basically. I had a place to sleep. I could sleep on the ground. I could sleep on a couch if I would find space on the couch. But because this ferry only arrived at midnight, obviously it left from Patras. And so a lot of people were already on the ship, not me. So a lot of the places were already taken. And I arrived on the ship. The first thing I wanted to do is get a room upgrade because I was like, oh my God, I'm already so tired. I really need a room. I tried to fix this a couple of days ahead of time because I was already thinking forward. But apparently, if you book your ferry, you have to book a cabin directly with it. You cannot book it afterwards. And then I asked in the ferry ports, or I tried online. I tried in the ferry ports and then finally, everybody was always saying, no, you have to ask when you're in the ship. So on the ship, I boarded, I asked for an upgrade. Guess what? They obviously didn't granted me one. So yeah, that was a rough night in the beginning. But good news. There is a thing called air seats. It's a room where everything is dark. So you could sit there on a real seat which you can lean back a little bit, right? English. Um, and then you can have a proper night's sleep, right? Because I was, trust me, trying to sleep. Um, in the common area, but the light is on, and some people think it is normal to leave their phones up. And so they would like, it's 1 o'clock almost in the morning, and they were just scrolling on their phones, watching TikTok with the sound on. I really don't understand these kind of people. Not in the train, not on any public transport, not on any public area, actually. Just put in some earphones. I don't know. I told one of the people who was being loud, like, please, can you turn it down? And the lady was like being angry with me in her language, and I didn't understand anything. So basically, what I did is I went back to the lady who was telling me that there is no room upgrade possible. And I asked her, I understand there's no room upgrade, but can I get an air seat, please? And she did give it to me. It was 9 euros. Why didn't she tell me from the beginning that I could just get an air seat for 9 euros? I don't know. I don't know. But the good news is I had a good night's sleep. The next morning, nice breakfast, nice deck views, beautiful to arrive to Italy. I mean, I don't know. It's just lovely. To understand and to see, like, to see, haha, on the sea, to see that you were traveling overnight on the water. I don't know. I slept pretty okay this time, and probably because it was dark and silent. And then I arrived and I was just so happy. And now starts the train journey in Bari, going to Ancona, which is the same east coast of Italy. And I was going up and I wanted to have a beautiful view. And yes, it was worth it. But before we get there, I want to tell you that taking the bus from the ferry station to the main station for the train and then waiting for the train was kind of confusing. Why is that? Because, first of all, there's a bus that comes pick you up, but it somehow wasn't fully clear to me how to find this bus because the ferry port is pretty big, and I was still left to film some stuff in front of the the big ship. So all the other tourists were gone, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, how do I find my way to the bus? But there was a not so lovely police officer who was able to help me, who told me to get out of there and move to the bus station. And that was actually pretty nice then. I found the bus. The bus driver was super kind. There were some other travelers on the same bus, which was nice as well. We had a little chat. And then I arrived in at the train station, right? And where most people probably would say, like, why aren't you staying in Bari? I mean, last time I did a trip between Greece and Germany, I did stay in Bari. But this time around, no. I wanted to continue the road and I wanted to see the coastline. I was really excited for the East coastline. Another thing you need to know is that there's a time difference between Greece and Italy, and I was confused. So, what happened is that my battery from my phone had died. I had my computer with me, and on my computer laptop, it was saying that it was 1 hour later than it actually was. And because of this, I had almost a panic attack because I thought I was missing my train and I couldn't find my ticket because it wasn't on my computer. I hadn't printed it out. It was on my phone. My phone had died because I was filming too much. Fuck my life. And then I didn't have a charger. Um, and I think I had internet issues as well then on my computer, so I couldn't check it out. And then I was sitting in the train station and I was really like left to ask some people around me if they could like help me get access to the internet because the train station internet in Bari doesn't allow you to just be like, yeah, I'm registering, I am confirming that I am human. No. They want you to give a phone number. But my phone was dead. And I don't know why at that moment I didn't think like, oh, I'm charging it and then I'm like asking the code in 5 minutes. I think I was just like so hyper fixated on the fact that I was probably going to miss my train that I was asking my neighbor like, hey, can you help me? And she was like, oh, but I really need to go now. And then I asked another person, and because I was already denied by the first person, I think the second person I asked also denied. And the third person I asked was like, I'm not gonna give you my personal details because I don't know you. And I was like, am I in Germany? What is going on? Datenschutz is a German thing, not an Italian thing that I know of. So I just started bawling. I started crying in the train station. I was so stressed. And then there was like a very lovely old Italian couple who was going to me like, oh, what's going on, is there anything I can do for you? And they were so lovely, and I don't know, I don't speak Italian, but somehow we managed to have a conversation. I kind of understand Italian a little bit because I speak French. And yeah, they helped me out. They were so sweet, and they were like, don't worry, life is beautiful, don't worry, be happy, like giving me these quotes in English. So cute. Shout out to the grandpa and the grandma who helped me out. Then I figured out that I was actually 1 hour, that I still had 1 hour. So I didn't just miss my train. I literally just still had 1 hour until my train was leaving. So the stress was all for nothing. But yes, these things happen when you're traveling. Okay, let's talk about the train route. All right. I took the Trenitalia Intercity and the Tua train. So those are two different kinds of regional trains that I was taking between Bari and Ancona, which means that I was taking the train and then it was a regional train and then it stopped first in Termoli, then it continued with a Tua, and then the Intercity repeated itself in Pescara. So basically I had to change twice and it was a very beautiful road across like along the coast, and I had so many beautiful views. I really tried to take so many pictures because I was like, wow, this is so pretty. There were like these amazing views of trees as well. There were some really, really lovely trees, and then there was the beach, and there were some smaller towns. I don't know. It was pretty nice. There were actually also a lot of tunnels, which I didn't expect because I was like, why would you go through a tunnel if you can be next to the beach? But I understand it's probably infrastructure choices. But yes, that was very, very nice. So then I arrived in Ancona, stayed there for one night at a friend's place. And the next day, again, I directly left because I was like, this is a train ride. This is not me staying in different cities for a long time. So my next train was going to Milan. And this time I was taking the Frecciarossa, I think it's called in Italian. So it was basically the fast train. In Germany, this would be probably the ICE. So basically, the fast express train Frecciarossa from Trenitalia was pretty nice. First part was again next to the beach. And I think this part was even more beautiful. So I would say the route between Ancona going up and then going to, obviously at some point it has to turn and go into Milan, right? Which is in the center, well, north center of Italy. But this part along the beach was even more beautiful than the part in the middle south. Just I don't even know if I can explain why, but I just feel like the views were more beautiful because the day before we were next to the beach, but we were also on a map. It kind of looks like you're next to the beach, but you're not all the time next to the water. So you're a lot between buildings. There's a lot of, again, tunnels, like I was saying, on the second day as well. But the road was following the water line, but it was not always next to the water, whereas the most beautiful views were really coming as soon as we are going up from Ancona. One thing I didn't understand though is why so many Italians, they're maybe used to the view, but why are so many Italians just sitting there with their window blinders closed? I was sadly sitting at the wrong side of the train, so stupid. Um, and I couldn't open up the blinders of my neighbors who were sitting on the other side of the aisle. But I was really not understanding. They just left it closed and I could see through the blinders that there was like the beach there, the water, so beautiful. So I went ahead and I went to the coach where there was food and there I had a beautiful view. So I can, if you by accident book in the wrong direction, then just check that out. And actually a good tip maybe on this one, if you want to travel in, first of all, in the direction of travel, right? And also at the right side of the road, you have to try to find out when you're booking your seat in which direction is a train going, like from left to the right or up to down or whatever it is looking like on the map. And then also look at the card. If the train is going from Ancona to Milan, right? So it's going up north. So you might want to sit at the right side of the train because the water, the beach, the sea will be on the right side. Okay. So you might want to check that out. Now, when we come to prices, because I feel like I didn't tell you the price of those trains yet, the trip between Bari and Ancona was 40 €70. And the trip between Milan and Ancona to Milan was 40 €90. So it was both like around 40 euros, which is pretty affordable according to me. And then, yeah, I stayed in Milan. I did stay there. Oh no, actually, I also stayed there one night only, but it feels like I stayed there longer just because the trip was pretty quick. Where the other day I was like 2 days kind of on the road. Now I think I was there in like 3 hours ish because it was a high speed train and it was super comfortable. And I literally just arrived in Milan. I went look around a little bit, went to my friends, we ate pizza that night. But actually, in the afternoon, I went to a very, very nice place which was called Tranvai, maybe in Italian. It was basically a tram which was reused as a bar. So the inside kind of looked like a bar, and then you could sit there and have a drink. And with the drink, there were some snacks coming. It was such a lovely experience. And then they had like live music that evening as well. Pretty nice. And I was there alone because my friend was at work. So I spent a couple of hours there just looking around. It was so good. So if you want to have a train experience, a tram experience in Milan, I can definitely suggest you to go there as well. Then the road continues, right? Because I'm not staying in Milan for long. The next day, I'm already on the bus this time. I'm taking the bus from Milan to Liechtenstein and I'm traveling through Switzerland. So I didn't really get off in Switzerland, but the biggest part of the most beautiful views on the Flixbus that I have ever seen in my life, and I tell you this again, the most beautiful views I have ever seen in my life. I never went on a Flixbus and had a great experience. I mean, my first episode of this podcast is called Horror Stories on the Flixbus. Why I hate the Flixbus. Okay? I don't hate the Flixbus anymore. I have less hate towards it because of this journey. This was the most beautiful trip of my life by Flixbus so far. You could continue to Munich. So I could actually have just taken the bus from Milan to Munich and literally just be in Germany. Final destination, whoop whoop. But let me rewind because the bus station, I think I wanted to get there and I needed to be there at like 8 in the morning or something. And because I was staying at a friend's place who lived pretty far away, we looked at public transport and it would take me 1 hour, 15 minutes to get there. And that would mean that I had to wake up at 6 and I already was super tired. So my friend was like, yeah, don't worry, you can take a taxi. We were looking in the evening. Taxi was like 20 euros. So we're like, okay, well, it was something 18 or 20 euros or something. So we're like, okay, yeah, sure, fine. Should I book it ahead of time? Should I book the taxi already or can I do it tomorrow morning? My friend was like, yeah, you can do it tomorrow morning. But I was like, no, 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 I'm afraid like if I'm missing it tomorrow morning, I've got a big issue. So let's book it now. Fast forward to the next morning, right? This is a day of my most beautiful Flix train ride. I arrived to my Flix train and the taxi driver tells me, okay, so you can get off here. This is the bus station. You owe me 40 euros. 40 euros? I was like, what? No. How is that possible? Okay, so my Flixbus was only 34 euros 50, 35 euros, right? And I paid more to get from Milan to Milan by taxi just because I was tired and I didn't want to wake up an hour earlier. And then I paid 35 euros to get to Liechtenstein. Crazy. I mean, I was a bit upset with myself for this, but yeah, there's no way back. You cannot unpay the taxi driver. And yeah, it was more expensive because I asked the guy because I was like, I don't think so, but I also don't want to be annoying. And he was like, yeah, but it's because you booked, so there was an extra fee, and because it's morning, so it's another, I don't know, there are many fees, I guess. So yeah, I just paid him, went on the Flixbus, had the most beautiful. I was sitting in the front of the Flixbus. I did an upgrade. I think the usual tickets would have been 30 euros and I paid 5 euros for the front seat. Totally worth it. Totally, totally worth it. I had such a beautiful view from front, from the side. I mean, I was literally having my Flixbus life. My neighbor was nice. In the end, like we had so much space. I don't know. It was a great experience. I can only recommend this route. Only recommend this route. Then I arrived to Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein is such a small country that it only has 3 train stations. I come from a very small country, which is Belgium, but Liechtenstein is smaller, way smaller. You could, I think, walk through Liechtenstein in one day, I guess, because it's so small. So, yeah, I went to Liechtenstein. I was like, okay, let me see this place. The bus was going to Vaduz, and I was staying at Schaan. Schaan and Vaduz are actually both bigger cities of Liechtenstein. And then in Schaan, there's also an amazing. It was a very nice train station because it was I don't know, for me it felt nice because it was the biggest of Liechtenstein. It's somehow the people were kind and it was so rustical in a certain way and also modern on the other hand. I don't know, I really liked the vibe of the station. And yeah, I went there, stayed one night in Schaan, and the next day I took the train again and then it was going to Austria. So from Schaan, I first took the train to Feldkirch, which was like literally 4 stops because I was in Schaan. Then there were 2 other stops in Liechtenstein, and then it was a first stop in Austria, which was Feldkirch directly, or maybe there were some other smaller stops in Austria in between, but it was like super fast. I think I was there in 20 minutes. This train, including the next train, which was a railjet train, that went all the way to Innsbruck, costed me super cheap. It was €12.99. I mean, I don't know how this is possible because I booked the ticket so last minute. I was really confused, but I was looking right now again, and it's like now today, if I want to leave tomorrow, it's still like €11. So this was insanely cheap. I think that's great news for affordable traveling in Austria or between Liechtenstein and Austria. Yeah, and it was the ÖBB railjet that I then took to get to Innsbruck, right? The ÖBB stands for Ö is like a O with 2 dots on from Österreich, which is Austria, and then BB, I don't know. But it's basically Bahn. First B would be Bahn again, I think. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Why are we talking about this? The train was really nice. So let me tell you the experience on the train. So the train has multiple classes. There was first class, there was business class, and then there was just regular seats. And then there was the lounge, which was pretty nice as well. So I actually mostly sat there because it was very comfortable. I was a bit hungry, so I ate like a snack which was also pretty affordable. I ate porridge, nice porridge. I was not expecting good porridge on the train. It was really nice, and they even made it with oat milk, which I really love. Shout out, as I'm drinking oat milk at the moment myself. Was really happy with this. The staff was nice. I don't know. This trip was even nicer. Why? Because of the views again. And for this trip, I did have a good look on the map because I was like, okay, I'm going from Nordost, Südwest. And now I'm thinking in German. From west to east, right? The train is going from west to east when you're speaking geographically. And then I was looking, okay, which route is this train taking? And at which side of the road do I want to be for the nice views? So I was literally going on Google Maps, putting down the little human, and then looking, is the view better on the left side or on the right side? Should I have the lake because it's passing like the lake? Should that lake be on my left side, or should it be not lake? What am I saying? The river, the river. And I think the river is called Sana first, and then the second part of the river is called Inn, because then you're going to Innsbruck, which is Innsbruck, which is probably the bridge over the Inn, which is the river. So the river is kind of flowing, and the train was next to the river for so long, and there were so many beautiful mountains. You could see like the amount of nice pictures I took on this train, incomparable. I mean, I had a great content day, and I had a great day overall. I can recommend this to anybody. Like literally, this last part of my lap of the trip, I think the beginning to the end was actually pretty nice, but it was only getting better. That was a thing. Like I was happy for the views on the first day of the water. The second day of the water were better. And then I was on the Flixbus. I was not expecting anything. Wow. Best Flixbus experience of my life. Continue on the train. And now I'm on this train in Austria. And I'm like, why have I never visited Austria before? Why? This is amazing. Okay, so I can only recommend you to cross all of these countries by train. So beautiful. I'm sure by any mode of transport they're beautiful, but slow travel. Take your time to view these beautiful mountains and go for a hike if you have the time. So the next day, that's exactly what I did. My friend and I had finally a day off. Actually, I stayed 2 days at my friend's place, so I had 3 days ish because of the hours that I was traveling on, to just spend some time with my friend this time and visit Innsbruck, visit Austria. It was pretty nice. And then we come to the end of the journey, right? My last bit was getting to Germany, and I'm going to stop at Munich because Munich was where Oktoberfest was taking place, and I wanted to be at Oktoberfest obviously with my boyfriend and some friends, and we were just there for having a good time. So I need to get there, and they were all going from their hometown, so I need to get there as well. By train, obviously. I took this last bit, not from Innsbruck, but from Jenbach. Just because my friend was staying closer to Jenbach, and it didn't make sense for me to go to Innsbruck because it was going to go in the wrong direction of the road, and then I would pass Jenbach anyway. And so the road from Jenbach to Munich costed me 30 euros 50 again. So super cheap again. Come on. And I really, this time as well, for this one, I didn't book it so much ahead of time because I was still confused on if I should leave from Innsbruck or from Jenbach. So I was waiting too long, and I think it could have been even cheaper. And this is again with the ÖBB Railjet. So this is the Austrian train. And then I arrived to Germany. My friends and I went to Oktoberfest, which was fun. And then we did carpooling for the way back. Basically, we were 4 people in one car. So the car was full and we went back home. That was it. And so now the final verdict. The moment we've all been waiting for. And I know I've been rambling a lot about the stories of my trains, but I hope this was somehow informational, interesting for you all. Okay, drum rolls. Okay, so how much did it cost, right? How much did it cost in the end? Take a moment. What do you think? Okay, I'm gonna tell you. 250 euros. To be correct, 254.8 euros for this whole trip, from the beginning to the end. All the transport included my air seats, included with my, I don't know, my nice seats in the Flixbus to sit in the front, everything included. 250 euros. For 4 days on the roads, I don't think this is super expensive. And the next thing I want to do is now check how much carbon this is. But this is not going to be in this episode. So what I'm going to do in the upcoming weeks is one of the upcoming episodes will be me calculating, or you don't have to watch me calculate, but I'm going to explain you how you can calculate your own journey while I'm giving mine as an example to show you how you can see your carbon footprint, right? Because I think this is really important. Again, holiday season, so many people, like faraway family members, or I don't know, people who just think it's important for them to say, would be like, yeah, but why are you doing this? Is it so expensive? And you can travel by plane so easily and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I know. All of these excuses. And I know there's a lot of people who have to work and they don't have time for this. That I am aware of. That is the only legitimate excuse. But it is not so expensive, and if you have the time and if you want to make it part of your holiday, holidays shouldn't only be getting to a place and chilling on a beach, right? Then you can literally just do it. Just do it, go for it. Comparing again, my price, 250 euros, my flight to go from Germany to, well, actually, I traveled from Belgium, but yeah, that doesn't matter so much. I paid 68 euros to fly to Corfu and then 250 euros to travel back by train. I wouldn't expect such a cheap price. There's also Interrail solutions, but again, if you're traveling by Interrail, you might have extra costs because you need to book a reservation to sleep somewhere and stuff like this. So there's always some kind of little upgrades you might need if you have an Interrail ticket. But if you want to book an Interrail ticket, maybe this is your time to shine because they have a winter sale, right? So this is my last shout out to Interrail. Not a collab or sponsored or anything, but just so you know, there's a winter sale going on right now. I think they have 20% off, so you can go check them out as well. That was it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any questions about this trip, I would really love to read them. So go ahead and tell me all of your questions in the comments under the video. If you're watching this on YouTube, tell me in my DMs on Instagram. I would really love to hear from you. My Instagram is either Clara Francken, which is me, where I share a lot of stories about train travel, but I actually also have an Instagram channel about sustainable travel podcast, Travel Devil, my podcast. Yeah, so you can type in Travel Devil podcast, and then you will go ahead and find it, right? Thank you so much for listening. I wish you a beautiful week ahead, and choo choo. I don't know. This is the first time I say choo choo in an outro. Choo choo. Ciao, ciao.
This was Travel Devil, brought to you by me, your host, Clara Francken. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to continue the conversation or suggest any future guests, you can go to my Instagram @Clara Francken. Take care, and I will see you next Thursday.